Thank you, Leah. It's really good to see all of you here. I know a lot of you are actually should be up here in some ways in terms of the amount of effort you've put into helping us. But what I'd like to do right now is more or less go over the kind of programming, the kind of activities that we've been engaged in, so that all of you see the scope and the depth of what we're doing. It'll take you maybe 10 minutes or so. I'll do a quick overview. And then if there's questions or comments, we'd really like to hear from you. One of the important parts of the way the organization operates is that we really do work in collaboration. We do absolutely need the input of the public, of special interest groups, people like yourself, activists. So anything that we can learn from you, we really appreciate. So, the program, the Social Planning Council program. Over the last year, we continued to do a lot of work with our partners, and we're addressing not only new issues that are coming up, but a lot of the lingering issues of poverty and social exclusion that unfortunately characterize part of our city. This year, we expanded what we are doing so that under the banner that we believe citizens should be getting more of the supports, more of the services that our system, our social service and our regulatory systems really should be providing to all citizens, not just a few, but to all. So to do that, we've been working with different coalitions, and you'll see some of the organizations that we've worked with in the annual report. There's a list of just some of the coalitions. But, you know, we also know that we have an obligation to do more than just help people get the services they deserve. We have an obligation to do more than just help people cope with poverty or cope with the social conditions they face. The Social Planning Council has a history of advocating for structural change, for social change, and that's also an important part of what we do. So constantly we're trying to push the system, to push ourselves, to push our colleagues to do more than just help the system cope. The persistence of poverty, of course, in Manitoba, and in particular currently the reduction of resources for dealing with poverty, means that the Social Planning Council has got an important role to play, and regrettably, I suspect we're going to be around for a long time dealing with these issues. It doesn't seem that we're going to eradicate poverty soon. In fact, often whenever I've spoken, I often ask people to be very critical of us because we've been around 90 years and there's still poverty, there's still social exclusion, and so sometimes we feel that we haven't done a very good job. But we are committed. We've got a great board that's committed to dealing with issues of poverty, and we are going to sustain that work. Now, the guidelines that we've got were established more or less in 2011 when the board got together for a strategic planning exercise, and they came up with 5 strategic directions to set the foundation for what we do as staff and volunteers and students. Now, these guidelines don't preclude what we do, but they help frame and give us direction. There's obviously things that we can't do, but we've tried to prioritize areas that we know people in the community feel are important and that they need the Social Planning Council's help on. So you're going to see throughout, I'm going to touch on these 5 priority areas. The mission statement, the vision statements are in your annual report, so you'll see the other guiding statements that we use for the organization. Now, the first priority. We set out right at the beginning, the board said that the Social Planning Council should provide leadership in dealing with these issues. And the way we see leadership is that not only do we take on issues, but we also take on issues that others, maybe organizations, maybe the government, maybe individuals, can't take on, that we should be out there dealing with things that are more contentious or more difficult to deal with. And we feel that maybe we'll seed the ideas or we'll get things started, but that's an important role for the Social Planning Council. So, for example, 2 years ago we started working around getting the CP rail yards moved out of the city, and that's where we're still working on that, but it's going to be obviously a long, slow process. However, last summer we had a really good discussion at the News Cafe where people were able to start giving comments, giving insights into what could be done with that real estate and how it could be turned into a community and social benefit. Another example of where we play, I think, a leadership role is in looking at some of the visioning that's taking place in the city for the future of Winnipeg and for the future of citizens. There's been a number of events, and there's coming up, where the discussion is on what Winnipeg should look like, what Winnipeg should be doing in the future. So we've spoken at the conference that the Business Council held a few weeks ago. We've been speaking at events that the Chambers of Commerce have held on their BOLD initiative. And we've also worked with the Arts Council that is going to be rejuvenating, hopefully, the Urban Idea Center, and we've been working with them. And these are all organizations that are looking at what the city should be doing, and we're putting in the social perspective in these various discussions. The second priority is dealing with the importance of helping the public understand social issues, particularly poverty, and understanding not just and being confronted with the realities, the statistics of poverty and the situation here, but understanding the root causes, understanding how there's not only difficulties and problems in our city, but how community groups are actually taking on these issues with passion and with principle and actually dealing very effectively with some of the issues. So we've worked as much as we can to help educate the public. One of the things that we did last summer, and if any of you were at our annual general meeting last summer, you would have heard Linda McQuaig, the author, speaking about income inequality and how that affects our tax system, and then how that affects our social service delivery system. So that's an example of the kind of speaker that we bring, but also it's not just a speaker, it's also how we bring that kind of knowledge into different programming, into different coalitions that we work on. Every year in November, we also publish the Child and Family Poverty Report Card. And this is a way of keeping tabs not only on what people are facing in terms of poverty, but also, in a way, a little bit of a jabbing of a finger in the ribs of those who could and who are dealing with poverty. So sometimes we identify government programs that could be doing more or that we feel are doing a lot. So we will be doing more of those report cards. This year we're going to be focusing on Aboriginal children in particular, and next year it'll be the 25th year of the Campaign 2000, and we plan to do a 25-year retrospective on what has and what has not been done around the issues of child and family poverty. So look for those two reports. The third priority for the organization was identified as the importance of mobilizing community. In other words, not only do we help people understand the issues, but it's really important to get people involved, engaged, dealing with the issues that face our community. So we're forever working with coalitions. A number of organizations come to us and want to get more involved, and we'll advise them and help them. And we'll do whatever we can to make sure that public opinion is turned to the advantage of change in our community. We've had a number of forums actually this last year. Two in particular I'd like to identify. Was that my moment in the spotlight? We've had two in particular that I want to just mention. One was on the use of public transit, and we've been working with the Transit Riders Association, and that was a really good opportunity. We had people from Winnipeg Transit there sharing information, and a lot of transit users. So that was an example of where we collaborated with a public service and helped people understand just what is behind the delivery of that service. The other one was looking at the city's allocation of land and how they've been dealing with land issues. As you all know, there's been a number of contentious land dealings in the last year, and we thought it was important to help the public understand what's going on and possibly deal with it. And so we had over 120 people come to the event at the library. This we'll be doing more work on as well. Now, the fourth dimension of what we've been prioritizing on is a new one for the organization. The other three, in some ways, reflect what the organization has been doing and standing for many years. But the fourth strategic direction that was added was that it's important for us to also work towards distributing wealth, that poverty. We can talk about many of the programs, we can talk about different ways of dealing with poverty, but ultimately it comes down to income. That if people have their income, if they have an adequate income, they can take care of most of their needs. And so this year we put a fair amount of effort into looking at how we can help different organizations deal with the distribution, well actually the creation and the distribution of wealth. When Senator Eggleton was here in November as part of the Campaign 2000 event, he also wanted to speak about income inequality and talked about the importance of shared prosperity and how the economic landscape is changing, so that now we're in a position where people that are living in poverty can be actually seen as an asset to the development of our economic capacity. So we're hoping in the next year to see more of that thinking permeate government and permeate some of the other large institutions, so that we can build more of a social movement around the eradication of poverty. The other thing is that I'll also just mention, because I know Damon Johnson is here in the crowd and Marlene Bartlett from McCard, Aboriginal Council in McCard. I just want to mention that there's organizations like those that are starting social enterprises. They've just started Mother Earth Recycling, which is a great example of a community group pulling together, starting a social enterprise that not only will train young people to work, but also will deal with an important environmental need, and that's the recycling of electronic products. So those are the kind of things that we hope that we can be supporting and working with. The final priority is, again, one that I think we've tried to demonstrate for a number of years, but is really important, and that is that we constantly are working with organizations, helping them build their capacity in some cases joining them in their campaigns, so that we build up that and strengthen that community capacity to deal with these issues. Rob Neufeld is here from the North End Community Renewal Corporation, for example, an example of an organization that is not only dealing with certain programmatic needs, but they're going beyond that in terms of training, housing. I mean, they're doing a whole range of things, and that's the kind of organization that we think that we should be behind and supporting. So there's a huge cadre of organizations like that we're supporting. We're really glad that NERC is here today through Rob. The other thing I just want to mention when we're talking about capacity building is that every year we have students come and do their practical assignments or their practicums here, and I've seen a couple of the students that have been with us in the last year. And it's really important. This year we had about 20 students spend anywhere from a month to 6 months working with us. And I'll tell you two things. They are very productive. We integrate them into the different program activities that we're engaged in, so that they actually contribute something really solid and meaningful. But it's really good for us as an organization to have these young people come in and question us, challenge us in some cases, to keep us in touch with different, not only what's happening in the community, but also different perspectives. So we're really pleased to have the students here. I will admit sometimes they make us work a little extra, but that's all worthwhile. So we want to both thank them and acknowledge them. So that, in about a few minutes, is an overview of what the Social Planning Council has been doing in the last year. Obviously, I haven't gone into a lot of details of the actual work, actual products, but you can read those in the annual report. There's, as Leah mentioned, there's a small staff of 4 of us, and I'd like actually everybody to stand up. I know Marianne is at the very back of the room. Most of you probably know Marianne. I saw Nancy here a minute. There's Nancy up here. Come on, Nancy. You're the newest. People won't recognize you. Nancy joined us in February. And where's Christina? Oh, she's in the front. See, that's Christina in the background doing all the work. There's lots of there's volunteers. I see people like Ken Murdoch here who have been working with us, and others. You know, we really appreciate your help. And then again, I have to just put in a plug for the board. It's been a really great board to work with. One of the things, you know, sometimes other EDs get together and I was going to say complain about boards, but no, we never do that. But one of the things is often people will, our board, executive directors will say how hard it is to get quorum for meetings. Well, I can proudly say of the 15 members on our board, we'll always have 13 to 15. We never have had less than 13. And I think that's a testimony to the kind of commitment and the kind of energy that our board brings to the organization as well. So that's about it. Last point, if any of you would like to come and have a chat with us, I've already talked to a couple of people out there about volunteering for what we do. So we're always looking for more social commitment, professional ability, and passion to do with social justice. So we'd like to entertain any one of you if you'd like to come and see us at our offices on Donald Street.